Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Capturing Your Love, where we go over weddings, love stories, relationships, and so much more. Tonight, we sat down with Jordan and Kirby Leob, who are such a phenomenal couple. They were able to share a lot of insight on their relationship and their entire story. So if you landed on this video looking for some insight on, relationships, marriages, weddings, and a lot more, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Kirby, Jordan, we have an awesome, show tonight, and tell me who you are and tell me a little bit about yourselves, and we'll get into the show.
You can go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Kirby. I'm currently working at Good Shepherd as a social worker. I have a daughter named Lily. She's about 1.5.
I'm Jordan Leob. I'm the director of admissions at DeSales University. I also have a daughter, Lily. The same one that Kirby has. And that honestly really sums it up.
I was going to say, awesome. I feel like anytime people ask us what's new, we're just like, we have a daughter, Lily.
And Lily's awesome. We'll get into chatting about her. But so tell me how you two met. Let me hear a little bit about your love story, and how you became fond of one another all the way to the point of marriage and becoming parents. Where did the first spark happen?
Do you want me
I'll
to
start. It won't be as eloquent, and then she'll jump in and tell the story. Well, we met in high school. I was a junior. She was a senior. We met at Trinity Lutheran Church in Kutztown. So we were doing a mission trip, kind of like a retreat to New Orleans and Louisiana. So really just spent a couple months together, getting to know each other, planning for that trip. Went down to Louisiana, spent the week together, came back, and I thought, she was pretty cool. We should probably keep hanging out. So really our relationship was around church, going to different high schools. We would see each other Sundays at youth group, Sundays at church, and Sunday really became our day. Whether it was going back to my parents' house or her parents' house, but that was our time to really connect, since during the week we were both involved in sports, both studying, trying to excel there. But Sunday was always reserved for us.
Who was the influence that got that in each of your families? Like, who pushed you to go to church, or was it a voluntary thing?
So for me, it was my mom. So I had been going to church where my grandparents were attending. So I had been there from when I was born till around the time, I would say, I was old enough to start doing Sunday school. The church that my mom and my grandparents attended wasn't very big, so there wasn't a big youth program there. And I think my mom really wanted us to feel connected as young people in a church. So we did end up transferring to another church that had a better youth program. But then after I had gotten confirmed, the youth program kind of fizzled out a little bit. And then I was still very wanting to kind of find my place in the church, because the same situation kind of was happening again. So I wanted to figure out kind of where I stood in my faith, because a lot of it was what my mom had told me. So I wanted to do missions, and I wanted to do more faith-based things with other young adults. So my mom supported me in trying to find a church that would kind of support kind of what I wanted to do. So she did kind of help me find another church. And one of my friends who went to Trinity Lutheran in Kutztown had invited me to come there and check out their youth program. And I went to the Sunday worship that morning, and then the evening they had youth group, and then that's where Jordan and I met.
Do you remember the first interaction? Is that vivid?
I really don't, because a lot of, to be honest, a lot of what I was focused on that day was I really feel a part of something here. Actually, the first youth group that I went to, the first youth group night or whatever, they were actually talking about a mission trip they had already that they were planning for. Here's what we still need to do. They've already had raised all the money, and they were already going to New Orleans. I wasn't able to go on this trip at this point, so I'm just kind of sitting there, listening to all of it. And then it was probably like 2-3 weeks later, my friend who had brought me to the church, actually, she had gotten a job over the summer. And the week that they'd be going on the mission trip, the head coach of the swim team, so she was a swim instructor, the head coach of the swim team was going to be on vacation, so she had to like step into his shoes. So she basically was like, I can't go on the mission trip. Do you want my spot?
Wow, it opened up just like
so,
that.
yeah.
Did you have something to do with her not being able to go?
So I took the spot just like out of, happenstance that, and then that's where then Jordan and I kind of got to know each other more, was then I kind of had to attend more of the meetings and kind of figure all that stuff out. So, and it was really cool too on the trip. So on the way, on the airplane ride there, we were all sitting together and we all like had seats together, but on the way home, we really couldn't all sit together. All the tickets were kind of sporadic, but there were 2 people who sat next to each other, and that was Jordan and I.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Divine relationship.
Yeah.
Come on. That's awesome. Did you have something to do with that one too?
It was crazy. Right on the plane tickets. It was like,
It was our youth instructor at the time, Seth. He was the one who handed out the tickets, so maybe it was him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do either of you remember like liking each other at that point, or was it really like, oh, this is just a friend that we're doing something, or was there a spark? Was there already a spark at that point?
I think there was something different.
Okay.
I think coming from smaller high schools, as you grow up with people, you date within the high school, but you're always friends before you date. So there's that awkward tension always. So for the first time, meeting somebody not from my high school, yeah, if we'd gone to the same, we could have just been great friends.
Yeah.
But not knowing each other that way allowed us to grow as friends, as people, but then also explore what is this romantically.
Yeah.
That I think we still would have dated if we went to the same high school.
Yeah.
But,
And I know I liked you, but at the time, everybody so pretty much a good portion of the people at our youth group, they also went to Kutztown High School. So they were kind of telling me that Jordan kind of had been like talking to somebody else. I was like, well, I guess I just like him over here myself. And so I was like, well, he's going to be like at the school with, somebody who he was like talking to. So I was like, well, even if something happens, it's not going to last too long.
Hey, and now look at you.
I know.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. Very cool. Where did the like formal switch happen? Like, did you say, "Hey, you want to be my girlfriend?" Or like,
No, no, he didn't.
yeah. I thought, I guess naively, that seemed childish to be like, "Will you be my girlfriend?"
yeah. Okay.
So I didn't, and we went on our first date, and we went to Sittler's when it was still there. So we mini golfed, and the deal was whoever lost had to kiss the winner. So I played the
Those
best
are the
golf.
rules.
Those were the rules.
All
Yeah.
right.
So already there's like some hint like I wouldn't do this to my friend. So I think something's happening here. So I played the best golf ever, won, and then we sealed the
Let's
the
go.
deal.
Cool.
And at that point I thought we must be dating. So didn't feel the need to ask. And then it had been weeks. And then that friend who didn't get to go on the trip.
She comes in clutch quite a few times in this story.
Yeah. She at a church function was like, "Are you two dating?" I was like, "I thought so." And that was the first she heard about our relationship.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't like specifically know we were. But I mean, I'm not mad at that.
That's fun.
So I've asked her many times since then to be my girlfriend, and it's worked.
Mm-hmm.
You sealed it. It's good.
Yeah.
What in between the golf win and getting married? What were the biggest, most pivotal, like transformative things within your relationship that you can remember? Other than like obviously like you slowly grew towards one another, but up until getting married, do you remember anything changing in terms of your relationship being strengthened, you two working as a team? which probably comes into play a lot, like after you get married and becoming parents. But do either of you remember like things changing rapidly or slowly, and what were they?
I feel like for me, a big shift was going to college, and because I think we both had this fear of, okay, we're both from small towns, we're going to go to college, and like, is this still going to feel the same, you know? And I think going to college and then meeting other people, we just kind of realized that we had a good thing, and that it wasn't, we never had something, I don't think, in our relationship where we were like, we didn't want our relationship to continue, or like something seemed better. So it was just really cool to be able to kind of like grow in that together. Because I know too, when I was kind of in the transition of trying to figure out really was nursing like for me, it was nice to have one thing that was just like the constant that I could like rely on and lean on. So for me, it was just kind of, I think, so like college kind of solidified like, yeah, okay, it wasn't just like something that happened in high school.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember distinctly freshman year talking to my friends and talking about their dating experiences and trying to date in college. I was like, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
And just the interactions they were having. And there was no jealousy of like, oh, I'm missing out. Oh, I wish I could do that. And I was like, no, I am very happy with the person I found in Kutztown. So that was probably the biggest thing, first and foremost, because it solidified, no, this isn't just a small town thing. This is real. And then I think the longer we stayed together, we went through funerals together. We saw like people get married together. We had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows over that time period of when we first started dating to when we got married. So, I mean, those stick out in my mind because especially for me in high school, wasn't the wear your heart on your sleeve kind of guy. Didn't really know how to talk about emotions at all. Whereas she was very much, if she thought anything, she would say it.
Yeah.
So going through those situations, especially so young, not that we're old now, but like when you're younger, I think really helped open my eyes to that and what it could do for me as a person, but then from a relationship standpoint, just the bond you grow from that.
You get mature quick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think it helped too because like our families, while different, are also very similar as far as just like values and everything just was very well meshed together. So I think that really helped as well.
What were the biggest differences in the families?
The reason I wear my heart on my sleeve is because my family is very close and we share a lot. Jordan's family doesn't.
No.
They're quiet.
Yeah.
So that definitely, it's just like little personality things, but then at the same time, like also very the same. It's like the differences are very subtle, but yeah, there's definitely that. My family's very, we share.
Yeah. The values are the same. The execution is very different.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Opposites attract too. So it's good when you have two people grow up in different environments. And I mean, for some reason, God made us so that we attract towards opposites. I don't know what it is, but it's all right. Let's reminisce your proposal. Let's talk proposal. How did it, as if I know nothing, how did your proposal happen? Were you caught off guard? Did you plan extensively? What was it like?
Well, I was gonna say, I don't think like I wasn't caught off guard that he was going to ask. Maybe at the time, when he was going to ask, but I'm trying to think when we had the ring in our possession.
We had it for 2-3 years.
Yeah. So my ring is actually my great grandmother's, and my cousin, when her mother passed, my aunt had the ring, and then when she passed, she gave it to her daughter. And at that point, both of like my older cousins both kind of said the ring wasn't really their style, and they one was already married, so the ring was kind of just sitting there. And we had went and visited her in Ohio, and she actually asked like us if like we would want it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and me being very sentimental and very close to my family, and my great grandmother, which I was fortunate enough to have a relationship with my great grandmother. I immediately said yes, and I think Jordan was also very grateful for that. So I knew he had a ring.
Yeah.
So the like getting proposed to wasn't a surprise. When it was going to happen was.
Yeah. And then how did that go down?
Yeah, so I knew it was always going to be at Sittler's where we had our first date. So I wanted to make it somewhat special. So I told my parents the day it was going to happen and kind of generally where it was going to happen. I told her parents when and where it was going to happen.
Did you do the approval speech
Oh,
with
yeah.
the parents?
Had to.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
of course.
Yeah, I went to go get lunch with her dad, and it was really cool because some of his friends showed up before us.
Come on.
So we're there eating, and then they come walking in the door. I was like, I don't remember this being a part of the
Go
thing. So didn't ask, and then we're finally like, all right, we got to head out. So in the parking lot, I was like, hey, I actually want to ask you something. And he knew it was coming the second I said I want to ask you something. So did that, and then that night I asked your mom and got the green light. But I made it very clear. I was like, I'm asking now because you were away for something. Said I'm asking now. I'm not saying it's going to be this weekend.
It was a
but
mission
I just
trip.
want to make sure it's all good to go.
It was a college mission trip, like with through Trinity. Yeah.
Yeah. So then did that. Told my parents it was going to happen. They're like, great, go for it. Got to be the day of, and one of our friends called and said, hey, what are you guys up to today? Do you want to get together? And Kirby, being so open and welcoming, goes, we're going mini golfing. You guys should come with. So I quick texted the friend. I was like, this is great. This is fine. You can come. Just know I'm going to be proposing. So then he was ecstatic that he was going to get to be there too. So all met at Sittler's. All the parents get there. They're meeting in the pro shop. I act like I have to go to the bathroom, go in. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it right away. Just as soon as we do hole one, peek your head out and zip around. We'll do it at hole two. So then did it. I wish I could say I had this great speech since I had so long to plan for it. Because at that point, we'd been dating 9 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before the proposal, yeah.
I didn't realize that. I might have heard it in the past, but I didn't remember. 9 years. That is awesome.
Right.
Well, yeah, 8, 9 years.
8, 9 years.
That's
8, 9
awesome.
Years, somewhere there.
So like long enough that I had material and I blanked. So I just kind of got down on a knee and I said, hey, I think I said I could have a really good speech, but I don't.
Yeah, he said something like that. He like, you could just see he was just like panicking.
I was like, but I love you. I'll always love you. Will you marry me?
Aw,
And then,
that's sweet.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, I say yes, and then like out of the corner of my eye, I see like these people like coming this way, and then there's like my parents and
Aw.
his parents.
They came out? You coordinated so they would be there? That's awesome.
Yep.
Did you cry?
Oh yeah. Oh
Few
yes,
tears.
I cried.
Few tears.
Because I will say, I had a hunch that maybe he would do it there, but like for some reason I just didn't think it was happening that day. And also we had said we wanted to go a couple times, like to Sittler's, because now it's not a thing anymore. It's a Rudders.
Yeah.
So so like I knew I kind of assumed he might want to do it there. So I was like, well, it's got to be before it gets torn down. But like with Uriah there, and like I was in like sweatpants and flip flops, and like I honestly like I totally did not think about it. Yeah.
there was no, hey, you should get your nails done this week.
Yeah.
None of that.
Well, yeah, and he like dressed fine. He dressed like decently, and he had like a polo and like some nice shorts on.
Of
and
course,
then
he's proposing.
And I said, I take my golf very seriously.
Yeah, he let me be in like yoga pants and like a t-shirt, and I was like, well, thanks.
How soon after the proposal did you start planning your wedding? Did you have some buffer before you jumped into it?
No, it was pretty immediate.
I was going to say we kind of knew what we wanted. We had been talking about it for like quite a while, to be honest. Like just in general, it was not going to be anything like super, fancy. We wanted to make decisions based off of like who we all wanted there rather than like the venue. We had seen and participated in some weddings that kind of had some drama as far as like, you know, guest lists and things like that it was just unneeded drama, and we just didn't want anybody to feel excluded, or we didn't want to feel like we were like taking people off the list that we wanted there.
Yeah.
So a lot of our decisions were based off of like, okay, this is the list that we wanted, and like, you know, we'll just go from there. So I mean, that's why we had you know, our venue was the like Kutztown like fairgrounds. We got that for very cheap. So I mean, it was
Huge open space to work with, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome sandbox.
Yeah.
There was a little, the only downfall to sometimes having a venue like that is though, like you have to coordinate all the outside things. So there was like the extra planning with that. But it worked, and a lot of the stuff that we had, like vendors and things, were like from the community, which we really liked. A lot of people were like family friends, so it just felt very us and very like homey.
Rock on.
Yeah.
So wedding planning, what was the biggest challenge other than like planning and coordinating all the vendors and all that? For the two of you working as a team, what was the biggest challenge? Was there a style you liked that you didn't like? Was there food that you liked that you didn't like? What was was there friction at all?
No.
Yeah, I think the
don't
biggest
so.
hurdle, I mean, getting engaged in 2019 was great, and then 2020 happened.
Yeah.
So we had all these plans, everything was booked, ready to go, and then COVID hit. So it was really the tension, not so much with each other, but with the outside world
Couldn't we have it?
yeah, like what do we do? So all through 2020 was that, and then in 2021 it seemed like things were getting better. We were toward the tail end of 2021 for the wedding, so it's like maybe we'll be okay.
Yeah.
But then we had to make some adjustments.
Yeah. The hardest part was the week before.
Yeah.
The week before the wedding was the hardest part, because I don't know what hurricane it was, but there was a hurricane before the week before the wedding.
I don't remember it.
Oh yeah, we lost power for an entire week.
Did it pop back on like the day before the wedding?
His parents' house, mine didn't.
Yeah.
So what happened was we actually took off like that whole week. And then like every day we kind of had like a little like list of things we were going to like get done. Well, this hurricane happened, and literally like at the beginning of the week, and literally like we had no power at my mom's house for a week. And so like the guys were supposed to get ready at his parents, and the girls were going to get ready at mine, and we were going to do pictures like in, you know, at my parents' house. He was going to do pictures at his parents, and his parents, they came back on, and of course like the guy's place comes back on, like the girls who have to be there at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Hey, brides and grooms are equal.
Yeah, so my mom's power never came back on. It actually came back on like mid reception.
Wow.
We were told. Wow. So we actually had to like make very last minute adjustments. We ended up having all the girls at the church to get ready in the morning. There were girls that were going to stay over at my mom's house the night before, but we couldn't use the water. We couldn't it was pitch dark. Like, there were cords everywhere, like trying to hook up generators and things like that. So my mom actually ended up, having us stay at the inn in Kutztown, like right next to the church. So the ones that we were like, whoever was going to stay over, we were just right there. So we were ready for the hair and makeup when they got to the church. Thank God our church was like so nice and letting us do that. And I'm trying to think, like, it was literally transporting everything that was like at my mom's house to the church. My mom was actually supposed to make our cake. We had no power all week. Yeah. So our cake was literally like a store-bought cake from Premise Made.
Yo, Premise Made rocks. Wow. Come on.
It really did. And yeah, it was just funny. Like everything, really honestly, like once you get to that wedding day, it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, whether you like it or not, or how it's happening or whatever, it just like everything just happens kind of around you. And I mean, my family, like both of our families really just like helped out, and it was like our village just like totally helped us get everything together. Even that week before, like my mom's side of the family and Jordan's, like they all came to the band shell, because that was a whole other thing, was that with COVID we really couldn't be in the church, so we decided to do the ceremony at the band shell in Kutztown Park. So my our families like came and they like cleaned the benches and the pews, and like had their like leaf blowers and things. Like they totally like helped us like clean up everything for our ceremony. So honestly, it really wasn't bad until that week before, where it just like completely rained on our parade.
You adapt well though. Yeah. It's a good mindset to you said like once the day comes, everything's just happening around you. That's a really good mindset for brides to have.
Yeah.
Well, and I had a bridesmaid who couldn't be there because they had COVID. So like that was really hard too, like for both me and for her. So it just felt like all of a sudden it was like one thing after another. Honestly, planning was really easy. Like we really didn't have a lot of hiccups.
Right. Yeah, really everything we wanted as far as venue. The biggest thing was just getting the venue. After that, we didn't really mind who did what. And we had plenty of time because we did it 2 years out, which was a good decision.
Yeah.
Because then we had that time to play around with, well, where do we want to get cupcakes, or what do we want to do for a buffet, and play around with a couple different vendors, which was nice. So we didn't feel rushed where it was like, okay, we're engaged, we're doing it in a year, we got to find this, we got to find that, we got to go here. It was, well, we have 2 years, we'll figure it out. We're fine. We're going to have fun with it.
Cupcake tasting was the best part.
You could totally fib to vendors and say, like, just take off your rings and go, like, yeah, we're getting married. Like, just go to a county where they won't know you.
Yeah.
So, after the wedding happened, what was your, like, first, after digesting everything, what was your first impression? If there was one thing you could have changed, what would it have been, like, COVID aside, like, the restrictions that you had aside?
I mean, I think I said it, but, like, I wish my one friend could have been there. I mean, I do wish that we could have gotten ready at my mom's house, because I really would have liked pictures in my wedding dress at like my childhood home. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but honestly...
But nothing that was in your control, like you would have changed. Well done.
Honestly, like, because even our, like all of our guests, they kind of told us like they would not have guessed that like the sky was falling around us like for that week. Like they totally did not realize that like behind the scenes it was actually a mess. But honestly, like our wedding parties were very good too in like keeping me distracted. Like I really wasn't stressed that day. I mean, I knew that there was a lot of stuff that like people were doing around me. They really didn't let me they didn't really let me help, even though like the organizer in me like really wanted to. But it just like at one point you just kind of have to be like, it's happening. So, and I mean, I have my dress, we're gonna get there. It's, you know, it is what it is at this point.
It's a good mindset to have.
Yeah.
What planning or executing or enjoying advice would you give like brides and grooms that are like in the process right now? Like any kind of tips you would shoot their way?
I mean, I had a lot of fun. We did a lot of stuff on our own. So like we made our centerpieces, we made like the table numbers, everything like that. And I had more fun doing that than I thought I would. And I think it's a stereotypical thing to say, but I think guys especially, like, what table napkin do you want? I don't really know. I don't care and I don't know. But when it came to like, hey, we want to make these wood centerpieces, it's like, power tools? Yeah, I'm in. Do it. So I would say don't be afraid to do stuff on your own, because it can be a nice bonding experience. Like I kind of took over the centerpieces. Kirby took over burning the wood for table numbers. And it just felt that it made the day feel more like we made the day rather than showing up at a venue. Not that that wouldn't have been great to just show up the
Just
day
show
of
up.
and not spend a week setting everything up. But
they would have had to worry about all the other
yeah,
stuff.
I just feel like that ownership piece of it made the day for me that much more special.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like we really took in our wedding and like I feel like the atmosphere, like we, even at our reception, like I still really remember the reception. I know people who like, they feel like it went by really fast, and it did, but I still remember like specific parts of it. Like I don't feel like I missed things. So I don't know that I have like advice. I would say that the things you worry about while planning, you get to the day and they like really don't matter.
Yeah.
They really don't.
Well,
And
like what things?
there was like little things throughout the week that I wanted to do as far as like when we didn't have power. It was like I wanted to make labels for things for like our extra tables, and I was like really like upset that I didn't get to do that. Or I feel like it was little detail things that like the week before I had a list of things that I like wanted to do, but because we didn't have power, I didn't get to do them. And I was like really like stressed because I was like, I had this list, I had this to-do list. And then like day of, nobody needed the labels. Everybody knew what was on that sheet. Everybody knew what to do. Like it was, you know, and even if they didn't, somebody in our wedding party or our families like told them what to do. I mean, my mom too was just like the ultimate wedding planner and definitely didn't get enough like thank yous for that day too. Like she just was like all over the place, and I still probably don't even know half the things she did for us that day. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know that I have like necessarily advice. I would just say like it really, once the day happens, a lot of stuff like that you worried about just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and people don't really, as much as you think they're gonna remember all that small stuff, like, oh my gosh, they didn't have labels on who this picture is. No one cares. So yeah, just enjoy the day as much as you can. You're both there. You're both married. That's what really matters. And it's again cliche to say, but that's the point. So don't sweat the little stuff. As long as you both show up.
That's good advice. That's really good advice for life as well. Like you want to get married to these plans and these details and everything you want to execute, but sometimes it doesn't work out, and getting bent out of shape about it won't really change anything. Right. So you just enjoy it. Enjoy every moment.
Well, I can say too, and I'll give you guys props for being our wedding photographers and videographers. You were probably the like one vendor who was just like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out and it's fine. And like made us feel like, all right, okay, we got this. Like, cause even I think Bryn like helped me with like the timeline of the day. And like, then I was even contemplating at one point, I like called her in a panic because my one bridesmaid couldn't be there. I was like, could she come for pictures? Could we like edit her in? Like, and she kind of like talked me through that. She's like, we'll figure something out and see, you know, what happens. And then we all kind of like worked something out anyway. But yeah, it was, you guys were like very much in no panic. And I was like, thank God, because it was like, we changed locations on you guys too, like having to come to the church and having to go to the band. Like it was just, so that was very nice that
we adapt.
Yeah.
We're good at adapting. After you got married, wedding vibes sizzled out. You got to live it all, and then it all, you know, phased away. First 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. What were the biggest changes? Were there any?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
within the first 3 months, I was pregnant.
Awesome. Amen to that. My man. That's what we're talking about. Got to populate the earth. That's awesome.
So yeah, Lily was definitely a first try. So
awesome.
we kind of knew too that we wanted kids. That was definitely a topic of conversation. People were very big on like, oh, you guys should take the first couple of years and like you should travel or you should do, you know, whatever. But it was like, it's COVID. Where are we going? Like, and we had been together for like, you know, 9 years at this point. So we're like, as far as like working out the like small, you know, niches and stuff, like we did that already. We're already living together. I mean, we started house hunting, and yeah, I mean, we did get pregnant quickly, but like, as far as like our timeline is, you know, how long we were together, it really wasn't, it didn't feel quick for us, even though I feel like everybody else thought it was.
So it was September 4th, you were married, and then you found out that you were having Lily when? Was it
beginning of October?
Beginning of October. Yeah. So then, what was her birth date again?
June 28th.
11 months. So between her birth and your wedding, between your wedding and her birth, anything change? Any huge challenges pop up that you guys had to work through, or was it all smooth sailing? So far, like, it sounds like you guys are awesome together. I haven't heard any challenges, any friction, and it's cool. Like, it's awesome, and it shows that you work great together and you were meant to be with one another. But if there were any challenges, you know, what were they? I'm curious.
I think the biggest challenge, and this was more on me, because again, I think I had this mentality of, we're married now, we need a house. Because we were still living with her mom, which, again, I don't think we would have been able to do the stuff we did with the wedding, and as far as us as a relationship standpoint, get to live together if we hadn't had that opportunity. But at the point of marriage, it was like, okay, it's time now.
Yeah.
So dealing with that mentality of, okay, we're married, me knowing we're starting a family, not necessarily anybody else knowing, like, we need our own place, and that sense of urgency in the midst of the housing market being what it was.
Yeah. One of the toughest markets to find a house.
Yeah.
So it seemed, like you said, I think we've been very fortunate in our relationship, and whether that is divine inspiration or, you know, anything playing a role in that. But as far as the housing market went, I think your aunt texted the one day, like, hey, did you guys see this house very close to your parents and not too far away from my parents? Did you guys see this? I'm like, no. She drove past and it was for sale by owner. So I went on Zillow, found the guy, gave a phone call. Our realtor helped out with setting up a meeting. And it was smooth sailing from there. But had it not been for sale by owner, we would
probably,
not have gotten a house.
It definitely was, because we actually had put bids in on like other houses, and we found out through our realtor, like, the one house we were actually the highest bid, but we wanted an inspection.
And they were like, no.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't need you looking at things.
Yeah. So, I mean, blessing in disguise, I think. But, like, that was just kind of, like, the reality. So, like, when this house came along, it just kind of, like, fell into our laps in a way. And the people who had owned the house before as well, they were, like, a younger couple. And I think that they liked that it was going to be kind of like our starter, you know, starter home. Because that's kind of what it was for them. So...
Passing on the legacy.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So everything's smooth sailing up into getting a home. You have Lily. What was it like? Was it tough for you guys? Was it super smooth sailing, just like everything else?
It was stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was definitely, parenthood is such an experience.
Yeah.
So the entire pregnancy, Lily was breech. She didn't have any room. So she, like, we had gotten the option to, like, have her turned, but we just decided no, that, you know, I was going to do a C-section. So we had picked a date. She didn't like that. So she came 2 days early.
Wow.
And Jordan was, like, hoping that I, like, went late, and she was born on July 4th, but that would have been, like,
Just missed
days. It would have been, like, days later. So they weren't letting me go that long with her being breech. So yeah, we were, like, eating dinner one night, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, I think my water broke. So we called the OB. They told us just to come right in. With her being breech, they wanted us, you know, to come in right away. I wasn't having contractions yet. So, like, both of our moms were there. And then they kind of told them to go home because they were going to try to keep me and wait until the next morning. And then it was probably like 3:00 in the morning I started having contractions. And I was asking them if I could, like, have, like, a birthing ball or something, but they, like, almost didn't want me to relax because they didn't want things to go quicker than they should have gone. So then one of the contractions got worse, and I had asked somebody to come in to check me. Well, Lily's foot was where it shouldn't have been.
Wow.
So they were like, "You're going now." So it became an emergency situation pretty quickly, and a very stressful situation pretty quickly.
What time was that at? Do you remember?
It was like 6 a.m. Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know if you want to tell kind of like your experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just nuts because we were there and nobody had the sense of urgency. It was like, yep, we're going to do the C-section, 9 o'clock in the morning. Wait till the doctor's ready. They'll come in. We'll get you in. Cool. And then it all happened so quickly. And you can hear from the room people in the hallway yelling at each other, trying to figure out, like, what happened. So we're both there. It's our first kid, just terrified.
Both of our moms left.
Yeah.
We're terrified.
What's happening? So then, of course, they come into the room and it's like, well, we're going to go right now. It's going to be okay.
I think we just heard you yelling at her.
Yeah. But they say we are going. What they mean is they're going to take her and leave me in the room by myself. So I just stood in this empty room for a while, not really knowing what's happening. Nobody's really like, okay, here you go. And it was probably not that long, but it felt like forever. And then finally a nurse came in and was like, okay, put your scrubs on, put your hat on, we're going to go.
God bless that one nurse that, like, when I let go of Jordan, I, like, held onto her, and then getting, like, the spinal before the surgery too. I'm like gripping onto her, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm just, like, so terrified. It like everything, but again, like, everything's just, like, kind of happening around you, and like then all of a sudden she's here, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Are C-section? Do they separate for C-sections? Just is that standard, or was it like a COVID thing?
I think it was just to get me
prepped
for the surgery itself, because then once she was prepped, they brought me in and I was next to her when we did it.
Yeah. I think it was probably just to, like, get the sterile field all ready and get prepared for like Lily to come out. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it makes sense there were so many. I was shocked when you go into the delivery room. I thought it was going to be like the doctor, a nurse or two, and that'd be it. No, they have a full squad.
Yeah.
So
well, it's kind of like, because there needed to be a team for me and then a team for Lily.
Yeah.
So,
so that was, it was an experience.
Well, then you said too, like, when you went back to them, they were like, "Here, Dad!" Like, just like all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh, here!"
Yeah, there was no like, "Have you ever held a baby?" It was like from like quarterback to running back. Like, here's your kid.
Had you held a baby before? Was it
I wasn't super comfortable with it, especially with newborns, and that's something we talked about jokingly before she was born. Because I'm fine with kids, because I'm pretty kiddish myself. But like, from a newborn perspective, I always thought, because you're told, support their head.
Yeah.
And I never knew what would happen if you didn't, but I knew I was not going to be the one not to do it. So it took them almost forcing it upon you, like, nope, you'll figure it out. And I was like, yeah.
Well, she was all swaddled at that point, so it was like an easy...
Yeah, they didn't say that.
How long were you guys in there before they sent you home?
Not long. We were there 2 days.
Yeah.
And definitely, like, so for some reason, everybody, like, all the moms felt like they just had to give birth on that weekend, because we were, like, in a smaller room too. So, like, we were ready to leave.
Yeah.
Like, we were just ready to leave. Because when our families would, like, try to come to visit, our immediate families, there was only, like, one other chair in that room. So, like, there really wasn't a lot of room for anybody to... move around. And my mom had come, like, the first day for us, because, like, at that point from the C-section, like, I couldn't move, so Jordan was kind of like, doing stuff with Lily, so she was kind of like running back and forth, like getting us food and things like that as we needed, but there was really not a lot of room in our bedroom, or like in the patient room, so we were ready to leave. And then the drive home with Lily, and then, like, pulling into our driveway is, like, a surreal feeling to, like, be coming home with your baby.
Yeah.
That, like, just made me cry. So, yeah.
You drove home?
I did. So tip to all the dads out there: if your wife has a C-section and you have to go over railroad tracks, slowly. Slowly.
Don't do it. Try to avoid them. No, like, literally any bump that happened, he was just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." He, like, realized after it happened, and I was like, "Jordan," like, and then he was like, "This isn't gonna be good," because he could, like, see the railroad track. I was like, thanks. Oh.
Live and learn.
Yeah.
Next time I'm dialed in.
You are safer driving though, right? Like, did you feel like a different drive about you driving?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, definitely complete stops everywhere.
yep.
Just staying
More
in
aware of the threats.
Yeah. Yeah.
We thought it was weird too, because like we thought the nurse was gonna come out and like put Lily like or just inspect the car seat or something.
Yeah.
They literally like just like dropped us at the door and they were like, bye, and we are like, you're trusting, you trust us.
Yeah. Yeah, that car seat experience was something else too. But,
What, getting it in or what?
well, yeah, so we went to the state police to do like an inspection to make sure we did it correctly. So I thought I was good to go. I had it in on the driver's side because it was easy to put in there. We pull up to the stop and the trooper comes out and is like, I recommend you put it on the passenger side because if you ever parallel park, not that we parallel park
Yeah, I was gonna
where
say.
we are, he's like, then you don't have to take the baby out in oncoming traffic.
smart.
It's like, oh, it makes a lot of sense. So he's just standing there because he wanted me to move it in front of him. I could not get the strap loosened for like 8 minutes. I'm there just yanking. He doesn't say a word until I finally get it in on the other side. And you had a little trouble there, didn't you? Officer, I did. You caught on to that, didn't you? And then in 2 seconds, he just shook it. He said, yep, it's in. Cool. Nice.
Got it.
But now I'm great at it.
Yeah.
I'm still not great at it. Why are they so difficult? Like, I feel like when you hit the thing to make it loose, it doesn't happen.
doesn't.
It
just
doesn't,
loosen it.
And no matter how hard you push, it almost like you shouldn't push as hard as what I do, but I think you gotta really shove it down and then you can pull it. No, when you just lightly tap it.
It's the straps for me up here. Every time I pull, for some reason, this one, like the one strap just seems like it doesn't tighten. And I'm like, I can't pull this any harder. And this strap, I'm pulling so tight because I just like keep yanking. I was like, well, I'm going to dislocate her shoulder on that side, trying to get her in.
Man, yeah, those are tough. What has parenting Lily been like? How has she been?
She's tricking us into having another one. I just
What does that mean? Oh,
like,
'cause she's so cute.
She's so good. She's like too good, and we know that's like we're like we want another one, and we know it's because she's like been so good. We just have this fear that like our next one is not gonna be
Complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, before you were off maternity leave, she was sleeping through the night.
Yeah. Well, and even when we brought her home, and she was like waking up through the night, it was like 3-hour stretches. Like it really. I mean, we had it very down pat. She didn't like latch very well, so like breastfeeding was like way harder than I thought. So I like exclusively pumped, so like we had it down to a science where like he was feeding her with like breast milk that I'd pumped earlier, so I was like pumping throughout the night. So that was kind of nice as far as like him being able to like feed her breast milk through the bottle while I was pumping, so we were kind of like taking turns in that way. Even when she was awake during the night, it was like 20 minutes, and then she was like back to sleep, and then slept like so like
Angel
we have no concept of like some of the struggles that some other parents have, but I have a feeling we're gonna figure it out.
Maybe God's been good to you two.
Right.
I don't know. I think you guys will be okay.
We're due for something.
Right. Yeah.
Chill. Watch your words. Watch your words. Things get spoken into existence. What kind of teamwork did you guys learn being parents that you didn't know about each other when you were just dating or married? Was there anything that you learned about each other that you were like, oh, well, I need to pay more attention to that, or oh, like I didn't realize I'm like weak or strong here? Was there anything like that after you were, I know she was an easy baby, but as parents, did you guys see anything like that come about?
I think for me, you hear about it a lot, but it's like a mother's instinct. And I figured there was something to that, but that's one thing I had to get better at, trusting when Kirby would send something like, she's getting sick. It's like, no, she's not. And then the next day, she's like obviously sick. So things like that, I trust her judgment on more than if I was looking. And I think that's because sometimes I downplay stuff where she's very like, this is what's happening. So that's one thing initially that I can think of.
Yeah, I think it was trying to like kind of navigate our personalities with like our parenting styles too, because while we're like the same, kind of what he was saying, he's a little more relaxed on some things. And so then I'm like really worried about things, and then I'm getting like worried because he's not worrying, or somehow like judging myself because I'm like, should I not be worried about this? Like, why, you know, should I not be so uptight about it? So it's kind of like figuring that out. Also, like I had, you know, babysat a lot growing up. So there were certain things that I just kind of knew that Jordan didn't. So it was definitely giving him that time and that patience to kind of learn and figure it out. Because I will say too, there were things I didn't know. And it's weird, like how all of a sudden when you have kids, like you just all of a sudden know, or you know how to do things. Like they give you this baby and then they're like here, and you just figure it out. Like, I mean, you can read all the parenting books you want, but I think you just figure it out by trial and error, because every baby is so different. And every, like all the babies, they, you know, hit their milestones differently. And so it definitely was, I think, giving us both kind of like the patience to like figure out how we were going to navigate that. And I think that's kind of been something through our entire relationship, where it's just like, we don't like to say fight. I like feel like that seems like very aggressive. We just like, we have disagreements, or, you know, and it's like a willingness to like giving time and patience to your partner, and figuring out like what works best like for the two of you, not necessarily like what everybody says a relationship should look like, but like what does it look like for you two. So I think we kind of like took that into parenting then.
Who were did you have like relationship or marriage mentors, like not like formally, where it's like you signed up with them and they're like coaching you, but was it like your parents or like family friends or close relatives that you sponged from them, learned how to treat your spouse or how not to treat your spouse?
Yeah, I think we had both. Like,
Okay.
I think we had, so both of my parents are amazing people, but they got divorced. And they're like, while they're amazing people separately, they just weren't, you know, the best for each other. And I think I learned a lot through that. But I also learned a lot through, I was very close with some of my cousins growing up, and I really looked to them as like role models, and they have relationships that I really, you know, I wanted to mimic, or I really wanted that. So I would say that was probably my biggest role model. I don't know if you...
Yeah. I think for me, it was always just the commitment part of it. So, I mean, I always valued the fact that like our grandparents' generation was always just together. Like that's just how it was. You didn't see 80-year-olds like, yeah, I got my first divorce at 30. Like, it's like, no, I married my high school sweetheart and we stayed together forever. And I think whether it was because I identified with that, because I also married my high school sweetheart, or what it was, but I always valued those types of people, whether it was my own grandparents or just people in the community that I ran into. But then even my own parents had their own relationship struggles throughout their relationship and raising 3 kids, but they stayed together and they came through it. And now they have 3 grandkids and they're really involved and they're living their best lives now. But watching them go through their relationship as we were all growing up, but the commitment to stay together is what I always valued.
I like that. In America, divorce and separation rates, highest they've ever been, ever. Why do you guys think it is?
I mean, I think I go back to like the willingness to kind of see somebody else's point of view, or I forget when we read the book, the 5 Love Languages, but
Such
that
an
was
important book.
yes,
Yeah,
we love that book, and we even still like reference things about it now, because there was so much, I think, not only when you read it, like you learn about your partner, but you learn about yourself and how like you perceive things that are happening, and how like somebody else shows love may not be how you do, but this is how they're showing it to you. So I think it's a willingness to like try and understand that and understand like what somebody else needs, and maybe it's not what you need, but this is what you need to do for that other person. I think sometimes that gets lost.
Yeah. I think people have too high of an expectation on what the perfect marriage and perfect spouse is going to look like. So they have their boxes, they need to check all the boxes. And if they find out somebody checks a box in the beginning, but something shifts and the check's gone away, it's easy to find somebody else. And whether that's through social media or just getting out in the community. But I think there's too many expectations, unrealistic expectations put on a husband and a wife that are just people that are going to make mistakes and they're going to be flawed, rather than focusing on the important things. Because again, coming from families with the same values, what I really valued when we first met was there was a focus on religion. There was a huge focus on family and community. But I didn't look for a spouse that was going to go make millions. And thankfully you didn't either, because it's not happening. But, those core values stay the same. And however we grow and however we adjust throughout life, the values are going to be there. And those are not going to shift. So the rest you can just have fun with. Like there's parts of you that I will make fun of probably forever. That if I had my boxes, maybe you wouldn't check it, specifically eating habits and how you use.
Yeah, Jordan has a weird thing
dig
about.
in. Let's dig in.
Jordan has a weird thing about food noises. And
I have that too. Like sometimes, it's just a sometimes.
Oh,
Just
imagine that sometimes all the time.
Okay, all the time.
I'm not going to point fingers. Someone in my family was eating ice the other day, and it was just like irritating me for some reason. Like, why is the noise so annoying?
When you break it down, I'm pretty rational. I can say this is not reasonable for me to be mad at. But in the moment, it's like, please don't bite your fork again. Please, there's no reason to do it. But again, like if I had that expectation, that's unrealistic. That I'm gonna. That's just not how
that's
it is.
something very small. I think too, like boundary setting is another thing that like people need to get good at before they get married, or like assuming things are going to be a certain way once you're married. Like definitely have like the harder conversations when you're dating and you're figuring it out, because I think those can sometimes be an issue too.
Sometimes avoiding conversations is probably in my opinion, the biggest killer of relationships. Because it'll eat away at you, or it'll eat away at your spouse or the person you're in a relationship with. When if you had just mustered up the confidence to say, hey, can we sit down and can we just sit down and talk about this? And then just push through it, 9 times out of 10 it'll solve the problem.
Which I will give Kirby all the credit there.
Let's go.
Because from day one, that's been her mantra, is if there's an issue, we're going to iron it out right now. There's no... oh, let's sleep it off. We'll talk about it in the morning. No. 2 o'clock in the morning, we're there ironing it out.
I get more angry if I know I'm mad.
But it's worked. Because it is. Once you're able to iron it out right away, you don't have that building resentment and blowing it up to be something that it's not. It's, no, this wasn't the right decision. Or no, I'm really mad because XYZ. It's like, okay, I can see that.
And just having a conversation, it doesn't have to be a...
And it doesn't always end in agreement either.
Yeah.
It's not always, you can't always go into a discussion saying, I'm going to make you believe what I believe. It's, no, let's just figure this out. And I can see your point of view. This is my point of view. We'll try to do better moving forward. But I think that also happens a lot. When people get too headstrong where it's like, no, my way's the right way. My way of loading the dishwasher is right. Yours is not.
Okay, well, mine is better.
Yeah.
So.
But even bigger things, there just has to be that give and take and an understanding.
Yeah. How old are the both of you again?
So I'm 29.
29.
I'm 28.
28. Very wise for 20-year-olds to have that awareness, how to problem solve. I would say if you ask any teen, anyone in college about the how it is dating today, they would say it's probably the hardest time to date.
I could not imagine.
Ever. And why would you guys say that is? Why do you think that is?
I would say social media. Yeah. It has to be a hard one. I also think people just like aren't, since COVID, I don't think people are going out really as much. But the hard thing for us too is like we didn't necessarily date either. Like we don't really even have a concept of like what that's necessarily all about. Mm-hmm. Like we got together in high school after kind of just like meeting each other a couple times. So we didn't necessarily have to like go out and like meet people or try dating apps or anything like that. So I don't even know that we have a concept of even what it was like when we would have had to do it.
Right. Yeah. I think it's harder to sift out people's intentions. So, you know, you're trying to date somebody, you may have the intention of, I'm dating to get married. Like that is my end goal. Mm-hmm. But this person's dating to date for a little bit, but they're still seeing what's out there. You know, I think that's tough to sift through, and it's tough to be genuine because everything you do, I think there's this connotation, everything you do is going to end up somewhere. So if you do find somebody on a dating app and it goes really badly, well, what does that mean? Like, are they going to tell their friends and then you're not going to meet other people? But yeah, to Kirby's point, I never had to go to a bar and see somebody at the bar like, hey, you want to dance? Like that. I have no idea what that experience is like.
Well, I don't know how it is like for teenagers or those in college, but like I would imagine people who are our age too, who are dating, I mean, we had 9 years to figure it out because we started in high school, whereas I feel like maybe dating at our age now is like, I'm sure people feel like it's like an escalated, you know, timeline. So I'm just curious, like how people feel it is like to get to know somebody in the amount of time that they feel like they have to, or, you know, I mean, we just had all this time because like we weren't getting married at, you know, 17. So, you know, we had time because we were still going to college and things like that. So, as far as like our timeline, that just worked a little more for our benefit. But, yeah, I don't necessarily, it's gotta be hard.
Yeah. Well, you have both really shared a lot of really like key points about being an individual who's caring and understanding and patient. Patience was something that I learned. I feel like you both have such high patience for one another. You listen to one another. Hopefully, I mean, it sounds like it, and that's an awesome, very important key point for a teen, you know, a young adult, or even just, you know, anyone of any age to know. Be patient with someone that you care about, someone you want to grow towards. And it sounds like also, you know, knowing what you intend will help you as someone who's dating, as well as being able to filter out, hey, like what are the intentions of the person who's growing towards me and yearning towards me. That's super important too. Well, this conversation was great. I'm glad that you two were able to come out, hang out, chat, chow, and I'm very excited to share this with the world. So thank you guys.